Good morning, members of the United Nations.
We are here to introduce you our 5 solutions on how to solve drug problems in the world.
Our first solution is more rehabilitation centers in the poorer areas of the country where drug use is more prominent and are more underdeveloped. Although the U.S. has a vast amount of centers, not all of them are free. Nevertheless, all that cheap. Due to the climbing poverty rate in Brazil and Iran, many are not able to afford getting the help they deserve and need. By making drug rehabilitation free, we are enabling anyone, regardless of their class and wealth, to seek the help that they need. Secondly, marijuana is perhaps the least harmful drug out of the 4 we are dealing with: oxy, heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. Because it is more widely accepted than the others, it is also easier for users to get off the hook when caught. If police enforce a higher penalty fine for pot users, it will discourage them to smoke, knowing they will get charged more than they would before. A completely different angle to approach the issue of marijuana, especially regarding overpopulated jails, is to legalize it. If the substance is legalized, it will eliminate the problem of having such a high number of arrests and crowding jails and courtrooms that could be used for more serious matters.
Fourthly, a large contributing factor to the amount of drug use in these countries is the fact that not many people are educated enough on the subject at a young age. Because of this, people do not understand the health consequences of drugs such as cocaine, heroin, oxy, and marijuana. If schools develop a program that warns students about these drugs and their harmful effects, we believe it would greatly reduce the amount of users and deaths from the drugs. When you speak to someone and give them the truth rather than the lies they have heard from drug dealers, when you clarify for them what a drug actually is, a poison, the response is incredible. Their minds and their lives can change in front of you. That was a quote from Salim Daba. Our final solution is a way to prevent the spread of drug use in these countries is to have stricter security checks at the borders. This would prevent people from smuggling the drugs in and out of the countries.
Get the book at asapscience.com. In the words of music legend Whitney Houston,
"Crack is whack."
But with all the extra attention lately thanks to Toronto Mayor Rob Ford, what exactly is crack cocaine? Is it really as whack as it's portrayed to be? Crack is simply another form of cocaine which comes from the leaves of a coca plant. After mixing powdered cocaine with a weak base such as baking soda, it changes composition and a solid is produced, often referred to as rocks. This solid has a much lower melting point than cocaine, allowing it to be smoked as opposed to snorted. In fact, it's called crack because of the sound it makes when heated. But why smoke it? Well, the lungs are an extremely quick and effective way of getting something into the bloodstream. Those with asthma, for example, use inhalers to quickly put a drug directly into their system. When smoke meets the large surface area in your lungs, it too slips right through the membrane and heads straight to your brain in as little as 8 seconds. This is much faster and more intense than the effects of snorted cocaine, which generally takes around 10 minutes to reach the brain. However, once in the brain, crack and cocaine are effectively identical. Initially, users feel energized, alert, and much more aware of their senses. In the brain, crack acts on the ventral tegmental area, releasing large amounts of dopamine, the chemical often associated with feelings of pleasure and euphoria. This dopamine travels between brain cells, called neurons, and binds to receptors that trigger the good feelings. Now, normally, this dopamine would be reabsorbed back into the neuron by a dopamine transporter. However, crack alters this process. It attaches to the transporter and blocks the reabsorption, allowing dopamine to build up and continually stimulate the receptors. As a result, you feel, well, really good for about 10 minutes. But soon after, the dopamine levels in the brain plummet, causing an extreme low and often feelings of depression, which is why many users typically smoke more, hoping to reach that high again. Unfortunately, these dopamine levels can take a long time to naturally replenish, contributing to physical and psychological dependence or addiction, as well as increased irritability, restlessness, and paranoia. In some cases, crack or cocaine abuse can lead to something called delusional parasitosis, the feeling that bugs or insects are crawling under the skin. This often leads to self-destructive behavior like scratching or biting in an effort to get rid of the imagined bugs. In the most serious cases, crack's impact on the heart can cause heart attacks, strokes, or even stop the heart altogether, leading to death. Simply put, on the extreme end of things, crack can get pretty whack. Thanks to Audible.com for giving you a free audiobook of your choice at audible.com/ASAP. Audible is the leading provider of audiobooks with over 150,000 downloadable titles across all types of literature. One of our recent favorites is Sycamore Row, which is John Grisham's sequel to A Time to Kill. You can download this audiobook or another of your choice for free at audible.com/ASAP. Then use Audible's free app to listen on your Apple, Windows, or Android device. Special thanks to Audible for making these videos possible and for offering you a free audiobook of your choice at audible.com/ASAP. And subscribe for more weekly science videos.
Most Americans live in states where pot laws seem to be edging towards legalization. And if you're not one of them, then you might be soon. See, the Huffington Post has figured out why legalizing weed just makes sense and what might happen as weed prohibition loses its grip on the United States. So, first up, more people smoke weed where it's legal. In Colorado and Washington, higher percentages of people use pot than most other areas of the country, except for Maine, where they are also toking aplenty. And supply increases along with demand, so the more people want it, the more people buy it. So why not grow it domestically rather than having to smuggle it in from overseas? Then the price for high quality pot drops, and the predicted cost for an ounce in California is now going to go down from around $375 to $38. So more money for the munchies, I guess. But revenue collection actually increases money for taxes, and those can go towards schools and other programs. And in fact, revenues from taxes on pot in Colorado could reach up to $70 million per year. And perhaps it could also help people who are drinking a little too much. Researchers have found that people either like to drink or they like to smoke, but not to do both. It could even help with drinking and driving. While driving while stoned isn't exactly street legal, you are much less likely to be involved in a traffic accident than if you are drunk. And yes, it could even create jobs. Think about all the jobs at the dispensaries, the packaging places, even the ad agencies. And if pot's legal, we can stop arresting so many people. According to the FBI, one marijuana arrest is made every 42 seconds. And it's you, the taxpayers, that then have to pay for them to be put in jail. And that is just crazy. So once it's legal, the internet will be jammed with think pieces on smoking pot, I'm sure. And then maybe, just maybe, the nation will take a giant chill pill and perhaps a toke or two if they're so inclined. What do you think, Ryan? Some pretty good reasons. It just makes sense, huh?
Yeah, I mean, especially it's tough to argue with that tax revenue when we're having so many problems with the budget. So I think that's a tough sort of thing to, for anti-pot advocates to come up against. But, I think this is going to be a state-by-state sort of fight that isn't really going to reach a national level for a few years. But it'll be, I think, important to see how the federal government actually deals with this. If the DEA can, in fact, just sit back and let this happen in certain states, I think, because you have these drug warriors who have been doing this their entire career. So I think it's going to be tough for them to sort of just let this slide without some sort of pushback.
Thank you for listening to our 5 solutions.
We hope they can make a better impact on the world.